Okay, well, welcome everybody to chapter 7. This is it. This is the finish line for the Millionaire Networker book. So this chapter is called Take Massive Action. And it's a little bit deceptive. You think that the massive action is doing the calls and doing all the stuff and the reach outs and the follow-ups, which is important. But really, this really is about taking massive action on ourselves, really taking massive action on who we are as people, as you know, who we are as individuals. And I thought it was an amazing chapter, and I agree with all of it. So we're just going to dive right in. I don't know if we'll have an hour's worth of call tonight, but we'll just get started and we'll see what happens. So let's just start right from the beginning. Page 89. Page 89, right at the beginning. The first section, you are the architect of your future. What did you guys have in this section?
Well, I love, oh, go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I love everything Stephen Covey. I've taken his course at my current job, and it meant so much to me. So any quotes from him, I pay attention.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that quote he mentioned in chapter 1, that all things are created twice. We covered that when we talked about mindset and the way that we create things really in our mind before we create them physically. You know, we decide to accomplish something and then we go accomplish it. But the beginning of it is all in our mind. It's in our thought life and our thought process. So yeah, Stephen Covey, he's got some good stuff for sure. Who else on the first section here? Linda, you had something.
Yeah, I was just going to say that first quote that I liked, that just reminding that we are here for a reason and a purpose, and don't be a prisoner of your past. I think I can have a tendency to do that. Just thinking if I've had a few slow months, then it's like, oh, I can't do it. You know, this is going wrong, that's going wrong, but forgetting whatever was negative and just being positive for what's ahead and creating that if you're not seeing it yet.
Yeah, I agree. And the thing, I'll just go back to my favorite personal growth book on the planet, the Bible. And in chapter 3 of Philippians, it talks about this. The Apostle Paul says, "Brethren, I count not myself to have apprehended, but this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before. I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus." But there's this spiritual principle there of forgetting those things that are behind. If we're going to be successful, one of the things we have to forget is the negative stuff of the past. Learn from it, move on. Another thing that we're going to have to forget if we're going to continue to be successful is we're going to have to forget the successes of the past. I mean, quite honestly, neither one of them are going to help you. Those are past. Like, so if we want to continue to grow in our business, hitting leaders retreat in 2019 means nothing. Me going diamond in June of 2020 is irrelevant for where I'm going ahead. Forgetting those things that are behind, good or bad. If I'm going to hit the next level, it's going to be because of what I'm doing today and what I'm doing for the next 90 days. What I did from 2015 to what I did in June of 2020, you know, from the start to going diamond, really it's great. But it's kind of like being a Bears fan. It's like, well, back in 1985, you know, well, that's not going to do us any good in 2022, you know, so it's like, we have to take massive action now. Like if I met with a friend the other day, and told him what my goals were with Plexus. He said, well, you better get going. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Like last year's awards aren't going to do me any good. So I think one of the things is, and if you go on in Philippians 4, which is my favorite personal growth writing ever in any book ever, is Philippians chapter 4. But there's one thing in here. It says in verse 12, I know both how to be abased and how to abound. Everywhere and in all things I am instructed both to be full and to be hungry, both to abound and to suffer need. I think that's a key to success. We have to learn to be full and we have to learn to be hungry at the same time, regardless of your rank, regardless of your not rank. I'm happy about I'm happy about where I'm at, but I'm still hungry. And I think we have to be that to get to the next level. We can be content, but we can be partly full, right? But we have to be hungry as well. You start losing the hunger, and then that's when your business fails. That's when you fail as a team. That's when you fail really in anything. As an athlete, you know, you start to lose that edge. Yeah, you're happy about the championships of the past, but you know, that's your legacy. That's your past, but you have to have that hunger, that drive to hit to the next level. So anyway, yeah, we have to forget a lot of those things. The negativity, yes, but also the wins as we move forward. That's the thing I learned when I was let's see, how old would I have been? 24. I used to hang out at a bar in this local tavern that I actually grew up in. The tavern, not the town, the tavern I grew up in. And then when I got old enough, I hung out in the same tavern. And I was 24, so we had been out of school for 6 years. And I was in a circle of people. I didn't talk this way very much, but the circle talked about high school and about our football team in high school. And if we would have done this, then this, whatever. And then I got shipped off to go to Bosnia. And when I came home, they were still talking about, it was the same. I was gone for like 9 months. I came back. They were still talking about high school football. And they were still talking about this guy and that girl and this girl and that guy. I'm like, man, nothing's changed. I said, you guys need to move forward. And I made a decision that night. When I noticed that, I made a decision. I packed my bags that night and I left my hometown the next morning, and I never went back. And that's how we're going to have to be in our Plexus business. It's time to pack our bags. It's time to move forward. Whether the past is good, whether the past is bad, if we're going to move forward, then we have to move forward. We need to make a decision. So there we go. Anything else on that first section?
Yeah, I was going to add this. On page 90, it talks about having a blueprint and a plan, and it helped you being focused. And it just made me think of how many people say, like, it's okay to fly by the seat of your pants. Like, that's how people live.
Mm-hmm.
But you really can't do that with this if you want to be successful. So that's what I thought of.
I agree. You have to have a plan. You have to have a written plan, and then you have to follow the plan, right? So like the plan will dictate the actions we take. Like if my plan is to just get up and try, well, that's not much of a plan. It has to be pretty detailed. We went through this earlier on in light of goal setting. You know, be very strategic, very, very specific on where we want to go and why, because that will determine our action, right? The goal, the dream will determine the action. So if it's big enough, then you'll get up and you'll work big enough. But you know, I learned this lesson in I learned this lesson in 2008, long before Plexus. I worked for a road construction company called University Construction, and my boss, his name was Ed. He's dead and gone now, but Ed just tried to get through each day. That was the ultimate plan. Let's just do the best we can and get through today. Down the road, there was another construction company called Champagne Asphalt, and they were our rival. They were our competition. But the boss of that company, his name was Rick. Rick had a plan. Rick had a 5-year plan. It was written out. It was very detailed on how they were going to get it. And his 5-year plan was to buy our company out and get rid of Ed. Well, guess what happened? 5 years went by and they bought us out, and Ed was without a job. Now that has always stuck in my mind in light of having a plan, the power of having a plan. Rick had a plan, and he followed the plan and he won. And he was actually the best boss I've ever had, hands down, not even a close second. I still say that today. I'll just share this really fast. I was actually at an event in Springfield, Illinois. It was like it wasn't a Super Saturday, but it was like oh gosh, I don't know, health and happiness tour, I think is what they used to call them. They'd go around and you'd speak. So I got up and shared a testimony, and I shared a little bit about Rick and how he was the best boss I ever had. I was just sharing a little bit of my Plexus testimony. And after I got done, a guy came up to me out of the crowd who I didn't know, and he's like, "Is that Rick Davis? Is that who you're talking about?" I said, "Yeah, it is." I said, "Do you know him?" He's like, "Yeah, he's my brother." So Rick's brother was in Plexus. I didn't know this. And so anyway, small world. I'm not going to charge extra for that extra story. However, having a plan has made a big difference in my life, thanks to Rick and his planning. So rest of page 90. We'll just do one section at a time. It all kind of blends in together, but let's look at 90 and the top of 91, where it talks about cleanse your mind through meditation. What do you guys have on this section?
Well, I have a question. Like, I will say I don't meditate, but I do pray. Is it different? Or is it the same? I don't know. I was kind of confused a little bit.
I think they're different. I think the scripture talks about prayer, and I think the scripture also talks about meditation. And I think that they're two different. I think that they're two different things. Praying obviously is talking with God, having a verbal conversation with God. I think meditation is different. It's thinking on something, maybe meditating on a passage of scripture, sitting there and thinking over it, just being quiet, sitting with it for a little while, just thinking your thoughts. That's how I look at meditation. I don't really look at meditation like some sort of like a Eastern religious meditation situation. That's not how I look at it. Some may, I don't, but you can meditate on, meditate. Well, let's just look it up. This is my second favorite book, the 1828 Noah Webster Dictionary, because all the examples of the words are found in Scripture. This is before what the Webster family went perverted. So I like go with the 1828 version before they started changing the meanings of all the words. Let's just look and see what meditation means. I don't know. I've never looked it up. So let's look it up and just see what it means. And then maybe we'll let that help us decide what it is. So meditation, interposition, intervention. Let's see. Oh, that's mediation. Never mind. I thought that sounds weird. Totally wrong word. Totally wrong word. Hold on. Meditate. Okay, here we go. To dwell on anything in thought. To contemplate. To study. To turn or revolve any subject in the mind. Appropriately, but not exclusively used of pious contemplation. Or a consideration of great truths of religion. Number 2, to intend, to have in contemplation. So another one says to plan by revolving in the mind. So it can be intention, it could be thinking on something, considering something, just sitting with something for a while, thinking through maybe your plan on what you're wanting to do with Plexus, what you're wanting to, accomplish, and why. I think just sitting with it for a little while. And I think that one thing is with this whole idea of even meditation, some people I think are afraid of it. I really don't think we should be afraid of it. I think we should meditate. King David in the scripture talks about meditation. So, meditating on the word of God day and night, so I don't think it's a word we need to be afraid of, but I think we do need to carve out time in our life to just think, like just to be quiet, turn off the phone, turn off social media, turn off the news, and just think our thoughts, think through the day, think through what we're doing, think through what we're feeling, what we're thinking. We probably need more of that, not just in our Plexus business, but just in our life in general. Really, I honestly believe, I think everybody on here is a Christian. I think that we don't hear from God very often, not because he's not speaking, but because we're not carving out time to listen. We're not carving out time to really pay attention to all the things that are really going on around us. So it'd probably be helpful if we learn to meditate in a godly Christian manner. Any other things about that section on meditation?
I liked use accountability as a principle for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like with the accountability calls we've been having each week, that's really helped me. I think it encourages you to grow and to be accountable for what you're doing or not doing.
Yeah, I agree. And when you come up with a plan, whatever your plan is, we talked about planning, share it with somebody. The reason we don't share a lot of times is because we don't want to be held accountable. I mean, it's not much more difficult than that. But, share it with someone who will say, hey, where are you at with this goal? Where are you at with this plan here? Why aren't you there yet? What's the problem? But that accountability is good. That's exactly right. I think that's great. What else? Anything else in through the top of 91 you guys have seen here you like or want to talk about?
Well, I was going to also ask,
Mhm.
or maybe this is why I haven't done meditation, because I don't see it as being productive. I feel like I'm just kind of feels like I'm wasting maybe the time that I have, and I don't take time to sit and do that. Is that something anybody else can relate to?
What about you guys?
I have a hard time sitting still because I feel like there's always a to-do list 2 miles long, and I have a hard time just getting my mind quiet to be able to meditate.
Mm-hmm.
I know I need to do better in that area.
Yeah, I agree. It takes discipline. It takes discipline. Here's one of the reasons why I used to see this in road construction a lot. People couldn't function without a radio. They couldn't do work without a radio. They couldn't pour concrete without a radio. The first thing that came out of the truck in the morning was the radio. Before their tools, the radio came out, the radio got turned on. And I've always wondered why. The problem with quiet, when things are quiet, we have to deal with us. We have to deal with our inner man or inner woman. You have to deal with the things in your mind. You got to deal with the trash. It's easier to stay busy. It's easier to just, get lost in the noise. When we start getting quiet, we start thinking through stuff, we got to deal with us. And I think that's one reason why we don't do it.
I can add to that. When I was training for my first and only marathon, I used to think I couldn't run without music. And when I got to the marathon, the rules, they did not want us running with music or earbuds or whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to run 26 miles without my music? But after it was over with, I have never run with music again. I like the silence. When I was running my marathon, I sang hymns like at mile 18 when I thought, oh my gosh, I can't do this. I mean, it really, I always say it cleansed my demons. I needed that physical and mental, like, expunge, get out of my head. I highly recommend, if you can do it, run at least one marathon, and it totally changes your outlook on everything.
I agree.
I don't know if I'll run another one, but it was totally great for me to get out of my trash in my head.
Yeah, there's a lot of trash in there, not in your head, but like in all of our head, like all of our, it's just the human condition, right? And I think we run from quietness. We don't want to sit still because we don't want to deal with the stuff. But that's where the growth is. We got to deal with us, and so getting quiet is one thing that will help us to do that. One thing that'll help us to do that. And I just did a really fast, this is a concordance. I just did a fast word search on meditation in the Bible, and there 20 separate verses showed up on meditate and meditation. So, you know, so if you start talking about meditation to anybody and someone's like, that is so weird, you can say, well, it's at least in the Bible 20 times. So you can have them all calm down with that. But one thing I want to say, I just think one of the things is we need to, I like what he says here. The fasting of the mind is meditation. It goes on to talk about meditation as a disconnection of distracting external impulses and can help you detoxify your mind and give you space so you can get new thoughts, new ideas, new life. And we're actually called to renew our mind. The scripture does talk about renewing our minds. But he says at the top of page 91, like the last two sentences, says, remember that creativity is the mother of all inventions. And the clearer your mind is, the more creativity you will be able to reach. You cannot create or invent any new ideas with a toxic mind. Whoop. All right. Hold on, can you hear me now? Okay. Let me see. All right. Okay. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that. But basically the last sentence on the top of page 91 says you cannot create or invent any new ideas with a toxic mind. And I agree. So I think we need to create space to think. We need to create space to be quiet. We need to create space to meditate, like we were just talking about, which we're not afraid of that word now because we looked it up in the dictionary. It's not that scary. It's in the Bible. We're good to go. We don't have to worry about that word anymore. So page 91 and top of 92 on the inhale, exhale section. What do you guys have in there? Anything?
I liked his example of what to do when you're stressed with the breathing. And I've noticed if I'm stressed, I start doing the shallow breathing. And I think that just creates all kinds of problems in your body. So just learning how, when you're feeling that way, to pay attention to your breathing. Mm-hmm. And do what he's suggesting. And I did try it the other day and it did help. It works.
Yeah. Who would have, think about this. Who would have thought? Just breathing.
Yeah.
When I talk to my coach, he'll know if I'm stressed or if I'm telling the truth or if I'm calculated in the way that I answer or if I'm just talking out of my head or whatever. And so what he'll do is like, okay, stop what you're doing. He's like, put your feet flat on the floor and let's just breathe a minute. And I'm like, when he first taught me these things, I was like, this is so weird. I'm going to hang up. But then I realized it helps. It helps you just calm down. It settles down your heart rate, and so, yeah, just simple breathing. It's huge. Who else in this little section here on inhale, exhale?
I like the little box that says you cannot create or invent any new ideas with a toxic mind. And I've really worked hard this year by trying to get those thoughts out of my head. I've really focused in on how many times I'm negative about myself and, what I'm getting done.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And just as an example today, there's about 4 things I've been putting off that I just didn't want to deal with. And a couple of them, they all had to do with Plexus or our Plexus business or something. I just kept pushing it off, pushing it off, pushing it off. And it's like I couldn't get past those things. One was a follow-up with a lady. And a couple others had to do with taxes and just some other things. And I just kept pushing it off. And then today, my thought was, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going to tackle every single one of these things that I've been pushing off. I'm doing them all, and I'm doing them all right now. And I did. Not one of them was scary. Like nothing bad happened on any of them, right? And then once I was done, my mind was freed up to think on the next things, And so I think that it wasn't immediate action. It was prolonged, like it took a while, but today I made a decision, and that immediate action, getting through those scary things, I was able to just get rid of those toxic thoughts about, well, what if she says this, or what if this, or none of those what ifs even happen. And now my mind's free to think about these next things, or, I just have more creativity in my mind tonight. It's because I'm free of those things that have been weighing me down. So anyway, there's just a little practical application there. What else on the inhale, on the breathing section, the inhale, exhale section? Anything? Was it weird? Was any of it weird to you? Sarah?
Yes, like honestly, this whole chapter was weird to me. Like, I guess I didn't realize how much my body has control, or my mind and my body are so connected.
Mm-hmm.
And it seems so simple. You just think, people take medicine for this. I don't know. I just feel like I've not done anything really well, and I have a lot of practice and work to do, really.
We all do. Like we're all in the same boat. We all have work to do. We have work to do on our mind. We have work to do on our physical body. And those things affect everything. They affect your attitude. They affect whether you smile or not. They affect the way you feel. They affect your emotions, right? But just breathing deeply and just being quiet. Like it's all the same. You can do all these things at the same time. The meditation, breathing. And again, it doesn't have to be it doesn't have to be this weird, like, antichrist thing. Like we all breathe. Let's just breathe correctly. Like let's not overthink this, right? Like I don't think there's any reason to make this weird. So like for me, I like to do yoga. Now I'm not doing it in some religious manner. To me, it's just breathing and stretching, right? There's nothing more to it than that, and I have I wouldn't even say friends, I just acquaintances, and they're like, man, I can't believe you're getting into that. I'm like, into what? Breathing and stretching? Like, let's not make this something weird, bud. Like, if you don't want to come over in yoga pants and stretch with me, I don't care. Like, it doesn't bother me. I'm probably going to keep doing it anyway because it's good for my back, and it helps me, just relax. It helps me just to kind of unplug, where I'm just focused on breathing. I'm focused on stretching. That's my total focus. And if you ever do yoga, that's really all you have to focus on. It really helps clear my mind. And so nothing weird about it. It's as weird as you want to make it, right? So just simple breathing. Inhale, exhale. Just basically, when we do that, we're just basically reducing everything down to the most basic principle of life, just breath. So let's see, Sarah, would be hilarious to see. I have some, but they weren't necessarily yoga pants. They are more of like running tights, but yeah, I won't be posting a picture of that, just throwing that out there. So anyway, maybe I will on Megan's birthday or something. I'll just embarrass her. Maybe I'll do something like that. Maybe I'll get some of those, what are they, LuLaRoe, the real weird print pants? I'll get some of those going, see what we can come up with. But one thing I do want to mention, back to being semi-serious here, on page 92, at the top of 92, it says start practicing. And see, this would have weirded me out like 5 years ago. But it doesn't really weird me out anymore. Start practicing and falling in love with your body again. Learn to know your mood and how to control your states so they don't control you. So we have to pay attention to our body. You know, when we get stressed or when we get angry or nervous, what do? Like, and how's that affect our business? How does our overall attitude, how's our overall emotional state affect our plexus business? Do we run and hide and not do anything? Do we close everybody off and go and just start working like crazy? I mean, we should, the whole idea here, I think, is just to really pay attention to us. You know, what are those patterns? Are they positive? Are they negative? How can we adjust those if we need to? And one thing, control your states so they don't control you. I was reading, let's see, I read this book a few years ago called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And there's a quote in here about your emotions. And we're all emotional creatures. I'm not saying we shouldn't feel the way we feel, but one thing he says in here, see if I can find it, is to be an observer of your emotions and not participant. Like, just be an observer, not a reactor to your emotions. But the idea there again is just to pay attention, you know, because we might get into these funks where we don't feel good, or we don't feel like doing anything, or whatever, or poor me, or whatever the thing is, and then it affects our plexus business. Because most of the time, if we get into a negative emotional state, we probably won't even work our plexus business. So we need to pay attention to what's going on with our mind. We need to pay attention to what's going on with our physical body, right? Because all those things are going to affect our business. And one thing I wrote down in here is take care of yourself. It will affect how or if you work your business, and it'll affect how you approach others. You know, when we were, one time I was really dealing with anxiety. I dealt with anxiety and depression for the majority of my life, not so much in my 40s, but pretty much up and through my 30s. It was something I really struggled with for a long time. And I remember reaching out to someone because I thought, I don't know what I thought. I thought I had a mental illness or something along those lines. And I have a total, I could talk for an hour on anxiety and my thoughts on that. But I remember reaching out to someone and he says, probably your physiological body. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not crazy? He's like, probably not. There's probably just something wrong with your body. Start looking at your overall health, start looking at your diet, start looking at your sleep, start looking at exercise, start looking at whatever. And I was like, maybe I'm just off a little bit. Maybe I need to make an adjustment to my physical body. And I did. And I don't deal with anxiety anymore. So I think we just need to pay attention to ourselves, pay attention to our body, pay attention to our mind, pay attention to the patterns that we have in life. Any thoughts on that before we move on here? Nope. Okay. Page 92 and 93, the May Creativity Be With You section. What about this section?
Well, the quote by Albert Einstein, like, I don't know, as you go through school, you're not taught to think that way. You're taught the opposite. Like, imagination and creativity is for like the weirdos. Like, really, I feel like that's what it's like. People who do art, people who are in music, those are the people that are more creative and imaginative. Like, almost our culture focuses more on knowledge than it does on being, I don't know, imaginative. That's how I see it a little bit.
Yeah. Yet half the doctors out there are afraid of probiotics. Like, so not, I mean, you know, let's think outside the box here, guys. Like, you know, maybe your box is limiting you, you know. I mean, knowledge is important. But imagination is great. Like, imagination can change everything. But what else in this section about creativity, about physical activity, starting to talk about here? What do you guys got on this?
I think just the moving and grooving and, you know, doing exercise or just moving your body helps because of all the endorphins. So I feel like when you're not necessarily when you're meditating or when you're doing all these other things, but I think, like you said, you can do all of them together. So with that meditating, with that quiet time, with the activities, you can have those creative moments because your mind is wandering because it's busy doing something, exercise, you're walking and you see something, you're like, oh, that's a good idea. I could do whatever. So you're more open to those ideas.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, not all, but running is where I'm the most creative. Like, to me, mentally, running is one of the most relaxing things I can do for me. Some people think that's weird. Physically, it's exhausting. Mentally, it's the best thing I can do for myself. And so, you know, I have a lot of great ideas when I'm running. And so for me, and I think one reason is because when you're running, you're not so distracted. You're single focused, right? And you're not on the phone and on the computer and dealing with kids and dealing with all the stuff. You're just single focused. Your mind is free to create. And so, and it does help release endorphins. You know, as he says, there are chemicals that produce a state of wellness and joy in our bodies. There are several things we can do to help release endorphins. It's I mean, real science here, not like, you know, news science, but this is like real science. You know, do some research, Google, or, you know, you can do DuckDuckGo, maybe not Google, but just research releasing endorphins. See what it shows. Start doing those things. It may change our countenance, may make us smile a little bit more if we're releasing endorphins on a regular basis. It doesn't have, I mean, it can be exercise. It doesn't have to be running a marathon. It could be exercise. It can be laughter. It can be whatever. You do the research. You make your own list. There's a lot of good stuff on that list. So hugging. This is something I was researching recently. Just a simple hug helps to release endorphins, and it connects two people. You know, I was just teaching this to my kids a couple weeks ago, and I was making them hold a hug for over 20 seconds because apparently it makes you release. It's kind of weird, right? But everybody's laughing by the end because it's weird. But we're releasing endorphins, and everybody was having a great time. We had a lot better day when we were hugging. So anyway, do some research on that. It might affect the way that you, if we get up and we exercise or whatever, and we're releasing endorphins, we're feeling good, our body's feeling good. I bet the way we approach other people, I bet the way we post, I bet the way that we reach out will be different. Because we're coming out of a state of joyful. We feel good. And when you feel good, you just perform better. So anything else on that section? On the May Creativity Be With You section? Okay. Let's look at page 93, the change your physical state little piece here. I think a lot of this is about the same thing, but anything in this section stand out to you?
I think that I kind of thought about posture with this section. When you're not feeling good, you're balled up, you're tense, and everything like that. So when you're happy, going along with the last section, you are more likely to point out positive things. You're happier, your shoulders are back, you are looking up. When you're upset, when you're depressed, you are looking down, you're looking for the negative things. So I underlined the first sentence of the very last paragraph. When you change your physical state, you will change the chemistry in your mind. And I think that is huge.
I agree. When we feel good, we walk a little taller. We walk with a little bit more confidence. We're more attractive. Everybody's prettier when they smile. Right. And, and when we feel good, we smile more. So, we need to take care of ourselves. That's something I tell my kids, I'm like, everybody's prettier when they smile. And, and the social media world sees that too. When we post, when we're posting about our business or whatever. But yeah, I think that's important. Life's better when we feel good. Any other thing on that section before we move to the last piece? Okay, so let's go to the last section on page 94 and 95. It says, you're the most important person. Now, 5 years ago, I would have taken exception to that. That's selfish and that's, ungodly. And if you're not tired and angry at everybody all the time because you're so busy working for everybody else and you're really not doing God's work. That was my mindset. However, I agree with that. Like when you boil everything down, like I was talking to earlier, boil everything down to the basics of life, you are like down to your breath. But when you boil everything down, we have to take care of ourselves. And I don't think that that's selfish. It took me probably 43 years to learn this lesson. Like when I have a list of 5 priorities in life. And one of those, the number one priority in my life is me. Now I know my pastor was like, well, I don't see God on your pie chart here. I'm like, yeah, God's bigger than the pie chart, dude. These are things that God has given me to work on. Like, I'm not going to give him a sliver. He gets the whole thing, right? So let's knock that silliness off. But I have to be somewhere on the pie chart. Like, if I'm not like, I can't take care or love my wife the way that she needs me to love her if I'm not healthy. Like if I'm not taking care of myself, then I can't properly take care of her. Same way with my kids, same way with my business, same way with our community. Those are my top 5 priorities for me. Me, my wife, my children. It's in this order: me, my wife, my children, my business, and then our community. So this whole idea is you are the most important person. I agree. Now, I'm not saying that in a way where I just serve myself all the time. I say that in a way where I have to take care of myself. That way I can take care and give and really give myself to other people. But if I'm tired and I'm angry and I'm depressed and filled with anxieties and I just don't feel good and I'm tired and I'm dehydrated, whatever, I'm not really going to be able to take care of the ones I say that I need to take care of very well. So I don't look at taking care of myself as a selfish thing at all. I feel like it's one of the most selfless things I can do. If I'm really selfish, I'll just live a life of indulgence and die early. Right? That's not what I'm doing. I want to take care of myself. Why? So I can live longer and healthier and happier and truly take care of those that God's given me to take care of. So we have to learn to get over this idea that it's selfish to take care of ourselves. I disagree. Jesus spent time alone in the mornings with the Father before he was bombarded with everybody else. He needed that time so that he could be filled up. That way he could pour out. So we have to be filled up if we're going to pour out for others. So what about this last page, these last 2 pages, 94 and 95? What stuck out to you guys?
I think it's hard sometimes as a mother to try to put yourself before your kids and all their wants. And, I try to have my time. Like tonight, I said I'm going to Angie's for my mental stability because my Plexus team, we really motivate each other and lift each other up. So Tuesday nights, I make sure that I drive up here to meet with Angie and the rest of our team, whoever comes here on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those things are important. And it's my belief that those things make us better parents. Or they have the potential to make us better parents. They have the potential to make us terrible parents too, I guess, but that's our own choice. But even as I'll just use Megan and I as an example. We're married, we homeschool, we do Plexus business all together, but we're also, and those things are true and those things are great, but we're also autonomous human beings that will stand as individuals before God someday. And so I think that it's to be very good at helping with the kids and the Plexus business and their marriage and all those things. We have to be healthy individually. And maybe that's a quiet time where you're quiet and you work on breathing or yoga or do a quick run or, whatever that thing is. For us, we have to create space for that. We have to create space for that because people will take all the time you have if we let them. It's up to my son came in here today. If he comes in, I'm doing something, I'll be like, I'm not now. His name's Benjamin, and he's like the most curious thing on the planet. But I said, hey, I don't have time right now for you. I like right now I'm doing this. And he said, well, what about when you're done with this call? I said, when I get done with the call, we'll go watch that video you want to watch. He said, that's what I like about you. You'll take the time you need to do your thing, but afterwards, then you come be with us. I'm like, yeah, but I have to have this time right now to do this. He's like, okay, cool. So again, I don't think it's a selfish thing, but we have to become a priority in our own life. What else on this section?
Oh, I'll go ahead and go let's see, the second paragraph on 94. I've attempted to do the whole cell phone disconnect right before bed. And I just was in a ladies group and we were talking about this too. But we were talking about it like to connect with your spouse, like to have a stronger marriage. But I had never thought about doing it as self-care. It was always connected to talking to Kyle. But now I see that differently.
Yeah, I mean, it can be for that, and we probably should do that, disconnect and talk with our spouse, but I think we should also disconnect and make sure we're right as individuals, because like we talked about earlier, the reason a lot of times we're not quiet, or the reason we focus on so many other people all the time, is because we don't want to deal with our own junk. It's always easier to deal with other people's junk. So I'm just saying we can deal with other people's junk properly when we first have dealt with our own. We can minister from a solid foundation then. And it's no different really with our Plexus business, right? What else in this section? There's a lot in this section. Who gets on social media first thing in the morning? It's not a right or wrong answer. Does anybody do that or attempted to do that? I know I am.
There's a program called Give Him 15, and I listened to that right away, which is like 15 minutes of kind of a teaching, but I don't start hitting messages and all that. That would make me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Angela, did you have something you were saying?
I do, because I do those early morning power hours with Amy and others. There's one at 5:45 and one at 7. So we're up early, posting on Facebook and doing birthdays and doing, all the IPA stuff, So yeah, I'm up very early in the morning, immediately getting on social media.
Okay, so I'm going to pick on you for a minute. So
Uh-oh.
Perfect. Thanks for volunteering. So the thing, when you jump on those calls and you start doing the IPAs, do you feel, confident as you're reaching out? Would an extra 15 minutes before that of just being quiet prepare you better, you think?
Lately, like I was getting on the 5:45 a.m. one, and it's just too early, and I just felt like I was jumping out of bed and trying to get my coffee and trying to collect myself, and so I kind of changed to do the 7 a.m. one, because then I can kind of take some deep breaths and, but still get my plexus work done. But I just felt like 5:45 was, just, I couldn't get my head into it, to do it.
That's great. I think that's a great move. Good for you. I think that's that extra time. You probably, when you do your reach outs at 7, they're probably better than they were at the 5:45 call. Just because you're more prepared and you're ready for those things, right? So what else? Anything else these last couple pages?
Well, it also talked about getting outside.
Mhm.
Like it said, to connect with nature. And I do enjoy that. It totally makes sense. I feel like I've heard all of these things my whole life and I've just never put them into practice. Really.
Yeah. I don't think any of this is revolutionary to any of us. Like we know these things. We're just going to be reminded of these things and then to put them into practice. You know, one thing is I've been hunting with my two oldest boys all weekend and it was been great. And the best thing about it, yeah, we had some success hunting, but the best thing about it is I slept like I didn't even move. Like I went to bed and I woke up in the exact same position that I went to bed in. And I think it's just the fresh air. You know, so even if we're not rested at night or when we get up in the morning or we're not getting a good night's rest, maybe some fresh air might be the ticket. Maybe some breathing, maybe some exercise like he's talking about, maybe just going outside and getting some fresh air. It did a number for me the last few nights. It's been awesome. But basically, I think that the common thing here on this last section of this last chapter is we really need to prioritize ourselves. And again, I don't mean that in an unhealthy way to where life's all about us and we become divas, you know, and like everybody's here to serve us. That's not what I'm saying. The idea that I'm saying again is that we get ourselves in a healthy position, mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially, whatever, all of the ways we can be healthy. And then we have more to give other people. And then we have more to share. And we have more that we can be poured out for other people with. So that's what I think about this last thing. And those things will positively affect our business because again, we're going to post different. Right? We're going to say things differently. We're going to respond differently when we're not hurried and stressed and angry and all those things. We'll respond differently. Or like I do on political posts these days, I don't even respond at all. I just scroll right on past. I might call them a name or two in my mind, but I don't stick around and post. Like I don't just, it steals my joy. It steals my peace. It robs me of my time. It's not what I'm put on this planet to do. So I just roll past it. I'm not going to give my energy and my time and my joy to those silly things. Because it's not good for me. Then I'm mad. Then I go out of my office and I'm mad and just, it's not worth it to me. So anyway, just take care of yourself. Take care of yourself and just start small. A few minutes in the morning, whatever it is. I think that it'll positively affect all of our Plexus businesses if we do that. But with that, that's all the book. Guys, that is all of The Millionaire Networker by Alex Hoffman. And I appreciate each one of you. We started out with like 35 people or something on this call. And right now it's like 5 of us. So you guys are the winners. You guys are the winners here. But and one thing I would encourage you to do is when we've gone over a lot of stuff, and I wouldn't let it overwhelm you. Just pick the top couple of things that really stuck out to you. Maybe there was consistent things all the way through all the chapters that kept popping up to you. Just work on those things, you know, those top 3 things, whatever those top 3 things are for you. Don't get overwhelmed by all the stuff in there. Just get the top few things and just start working on that. And I think that it will, like I said, positively affect our Plexus businesses. So anybody have anything before we sign off? Nothing?
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, it's been a blast. It's a lot of
Yeah.
fun. You guys are fun.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, you bet. We'll have to do another one. We'll have to do another one here, maybe after the holidays or something. That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I appreciate all of you guys and all the things that you guys have poured into me. So I'm going to go put them into practice. So as my wife Megan says, hi ho, here we go. Guys, have a good one. Have a happy Thanksgiving too. And we'll be seeing you soon. See ya.
And
Yep.
I